Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Windsor. I'm Ollie Barrett and these are the headlines. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi tells his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin that the cooperation among countries sanctioned by the United States will make them stronger. A Palestinian teenager dies during clashes with Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank that broke out as the military was pursuing targets allegedly linked to a soldier's killing. US President Joe Biden announces a tentative labor agreement to avert a national strike that would have shut down a key part of the US transportation network. High winds and heavy rains lash China's east coast. Typhoon Muifa causes around 1.6 million people to leave their homes and grounds most flights at Shanghai's main airports. World leaders are at Samarkand in Uzbekistan for the Shanghai Cooperation Summit, including Chinese leader Xi Jinping, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, among others. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are set to meet later today. They're expected to discuss the Ukraine war, tensions over Taiwan, and the partnership between the two countries. Iran, meanwhile, has signed a memorandum of obligations to become a permanent member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Iran's foreign minister says Iran is entering a new stage of economic, commercial and energy cooperation. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also arrives today. He's officially scheduled to meet the Prime Minister of Uzbekistan and President Putin of Russia. There is speculation, though, about a possible one-to-one meeting between the Prime Minister and leaders of both China and Pakistan. The Indian Foreign Ministry has not confirmed any such meeting yet. Well, let's go live now to our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, and Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik, both of whom join us live from Samarkand. Siddhant, let's begin with you. And Prime Minister Modi, any more word yet on exactly who he'll end up meeting over the course of this summit?
Well, Ollie, great to see you. And the Indian Prime Minister will be reaching here in Samarkand, the cultural capital of Uzbekistan, later today. 3 meetings have been confirmed. He is going to meet the Russian President, the Iranian President and the Uzbek President. Of course, the eyeballs are on whether he is going to meet the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Relationship between India and China hasn't been going very well. We know that both the leaders will be under the same roof for the first time since the Galwan incident, in which India lost 20 of its soldiers and China also suffered casualty number of 4. But by and large, when it comes to the relationship, it has nosedived. The Indian External Affairs Minister recently said that the relationship is undergoing a difficult phase. But any meeting here, even a handshake here, will be seen as a positive development. In fact, it will be seen as a big breakthrough, even as the relationship between the two Asian giants has fallen. So that is why whether the Indian and the Chinese leaders meet or not meet, it is going to make a headline in any ways. Even if they do not meet, it is a message in itself, in a sense that India is sending to Beijing that there are not going to be any talks or conversations till the situation at the border is normalized.
Anas, can we come to you now and talk to me about the Pakistan leader and his meeting with Vladimir Putin? What came out of that?
Well, I'll answer your question that very shortly, but let me just go off topic, because the first question to Siddhant was with regards to President Xi and President Putin's meeting. And while Siddhant was speaking, the update has just come in from the Russian media, and they've confirmed that President Xi and the Russian president have just held a meeting on the sidelines of the SCO summit. So this meeting has taken place after the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met Russian President Vladimir Putin, and in the meeting between President Xi and the Russian president, what we can say, quoting the Russian media, is that Russia has firmly adhered to one China principle, and that, quote, Russia has condemned the US provocations over Taiwan. This is what Putin has told Xi. This is what the Russian media has quoted. Now, over to your first part of the question, Oli. What happened in that meeting? Well, it was more to do with the personal touch. We saw that the Pakistani Prime Minister held about a 40-minute long conversation, meeting rather, with his delegation in the premise of where President Putin is staying or holding meetings. He went up to his hotel, spoke a bit of Russian, giving a bit of a personal touch as well. And then talks ranged on different topics of mutual interest, bilateral relations, trade, and of course the war in Ukraine was also discussed. But the highlight, more importantly, of the discussion was the situation in Afghanistan and convergence with regards to that. We would be expecting a statement from the Pakistani Prime Minister's office or the Pakistani PMO in a very short while from now, but this is a very significant meeting, at least politically back home as well, because Shehbaz Sharif gets to have a driver back home, and rather this meeting would be deemed considerably successful, contrary to how the claims had been in a section of the Pakistani media. Oli?
Anas, thank you. Thank you for bringing us that breaking news, because it was the meeting between Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin that so many people were looking out for. This, the first foreign trip from Xi Jinping since right at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. And Siddhant, therefore, if I can come back to you on that issue, what do you make of that readout when it comes to the meeting between Putin and Xi?
Well, this is a meeting that perhaps everyone was waiting for. Now, the readout from the Chinese when it comes to this meeting is awaited. We know that the West will be keenly watching this meeting, given that this is the first meeting between the two leaders, in-person meeting since the Ukraine conflict. In fact, the Russian president was in Beijing in the month of February when the Chinese hosted Olympic Games in Beijing started. So this camaraderie between the two leaders, the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Chinese President Xi Jinping, is growing with each passing month. Both the countries, of course, are facing the wrath of the West and, of course, are keen on an alternative arrangement in terms of the global order. They see Samarkand SCO summit as a summit that will give a dimension to a new world order, something that challenges the West-dominated world order. And that is why, for Putin personally and for the Chinese President Xi Jinping, it is a very important summit that is, of course, going to have its D-Day on Friday. Today, of course, is the day when the informal meetings happen, including a boat ride where, of course, the SCO leaders will be taking a boat ride. The Chinese President, Russian President, Iranian, and, of course, the Central Asian countries. It is also a big ticket moment for the Uzbek president, who's keen to showcase the development of his country. In fact, the city of Samarkand is all decked up in its best way possible to welcome the leaders. A lot of security. The city has been spruced up. Its monument have, of course, been decked up to welcome the leaders. But everyone will also be closely watching the Samarkand Declaration. It will be released on Friday midday, and in those documents, perhaps a key focus will be on trading in local currencies. We know that the Russian side is facing sanctions. The Iranian side, Iran, will of course become a member of the grouping, is facing sanctions. So they will be keen on making sure that SCO becomes a grouping that has its own rules, and those rules help in global governance.
Guys, thank you. Samarkand spruced up, Siddhant Sibal spruced up, Anas Malik spruced up. WION is on the ground there in numbers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claims that the northeastern Kharkiv region has been almost entirely retaken from Russian troops. In a video address, his latest video address, he said that almost 400 settlements had been recaptured since Kiev launched a counter-offensive.
I've returned from the Kharkiv region, from the districts that were liberated. As of today, almost the entire region is deoccupied. It was an unprecedented movement of our warriors. Ukrainians once again managed to do what many considered impossible. On the first day of active operations alone, our troops advanced 18 kilometers. In 5 days of fighting, 110 kilometers were covered. In total, almost 400 settlements were deoccupied.
Zelensky says that towns and villages recaptured from Russian forces have been left, many of them in complete ruins.
The Russian army remained in the Kharkiv region for more than 5 months, and during this time the occupiers did not even try to do something for the people. They only destroyed, only seized, only deported. They left devastated villages, and in some of them there is not a single surviving house. Occupiers have left schools turned into garbage dumps, and ruined churches turned literally into lavatories.
In southern Ukraine, the city of Kryvyi Rih was hit by 8 missiles which destroyed a water pumping station and caused a river to break through a dam. A senior Kiev official has said that there were no civilian casualties in that attack, but accused Russia of trying to instigate panic. The Ukrainian military has claimed the destruction of Russian troops and equipment in Bakhmut and says Russian troops are trying to strengthen their defensive positions in the Donetsk and Zaporizhia regions. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has visited recaptured towns and has vowed to lead Ukraine to victory in the war against Russia.
A dramatic moment on video as a mother is reunited with her son after 6 months of Russian occupation, said to be in a town near Kharkiv, recaptured by Ukrainian forces. Humming as the White House says another aid package could be on the cards for its ally in a matter of days, and as questions linger over whether Ukraine's counteroffensive marks a turning point in the war. Reuters cannot verify where and when the video was taken. The son, a mayor, told Reuters it was in the village of Kozacha Lopa. His mother can be heard saying she knew he'd return. The leader of the Russian-backed and self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic says forces loyal to Moscow have pushed back Ukraine's advance in at least one area, near the town of Lumen in the eastern Donetsk region. In another town, Izum, recently recaptured by Ukraine, abandoned tanks litter the area emblazoned with the letter Z, the symbol Russian forces use to identify themselves. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby.
I would let President Zelensky determine and decide whether he feels militarily they've reached a turning point. But clearly, at least in the Donbass, there's a sense of momentum here by the Ukrainian armed forces. And so what we're going to do is continue to support them as best we can.
President Zelensky himself made a surprise visit to Izum on Wednesday, a major logistics hub about 9 miles from the front line. This is what he told Reuters and other journalists in the area as he surveyed the destruction.
The view is very shocking, but it's not shock for me because we began to see the same pictures from Bucha, from the first deoccupied territories. So the same, destroyed buildings, killed people, and so what can I say?
He led a moment of silence in town. Russia, which describes the conflict as a special military operation, denies that its forces have deliberately targeted civilians. Zelensky says his forces have retaken about 3,100 square miles as of Tuesday night, but Reuters cannot verify the claim.
Queen Elizabeth II's coffin is lying in state at Westminster Hall ahead of the state funeral for her on Monday, and then later on Monday her body will return here to Windsor Castle to be buried in the grounds of the castle behind me. Westminster Hall is open almost 24 hours a day of the public to file past the coffin and pay their respects. Thousands of people have been queuing for hours for a chance to pay their respects and file past the Queen's casket. Government officials say they can't predict exactly how many will want to take up that opportunity, but around 750,000 people are expected. The coffin rests on a raised platform known as a catafalque. Each corner of the platform is guarded by soldiers from units that serve the royal household. The coffin is draped in the royal standard and topped with the imperial state crown, a wreath of white roses and dahlias, and the sovereign's orb and sceptre. On Wednesday, the late monarch made her final journey from Buckingham Palace. King Charles, his sons Princes William and Harry, and other senior royals joined the procession. Alex Isaac has more on this now, our London correspondent.
Thousands of people have joined the queue to go and see the Queen's coffin as it rests at Westminster Abbey. Many have been here for hours and they're expecting up to an 8-hour wait to try and go all the way past the river down to the Abbey.
It's been about a couple of hours now, is it? Oh, did you see this? Yeah, a couple of hours. We had to walk a long way to come and join the queue.
And how do you feel about being in the queue?
It's been good. It's been good. Yeah, high spirits. Yeah, everybody's happy and chatting away.
I think it's a quite surreal atmosphere. You know, everyone's just here. I think it's good to wait as well because you've got the time to reflect on this time of transition, really. As you know, the Queen's now gone. We've got new Prime Minister, a new King, new police. So lots of changes.
Well, I'm an ex-serviceman, so it's quite dear to me that I need to see the Queen. I met the Queen when I was in the service.
The queue is stretching on beyond 3 miles, but it can extend up to 6.9 miles. There's a queue infrastructure with toilets and water all the way down. People are expected to be waiting for hours and hours, potentially staying overnight, but many seem happy to do so. Alex Isaac for WION World is One.
Next to Sweden, the outgoing Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson has handed in her resignation to the Speaker of the Parliament. This paves the way for a change of government. The Speaker is now expected to give the head of Sweden's moderate party, Ulf Kristersson, a mandate to form a new government.
Sweden has a result. The voters have spoken. The moderates and the other parties on my side have received the mandate for change that we asked for. I will start the work now with forming a new and vigorous government. A government for the whole of Sweden and for all of its citizens.
Anderson accepted defeat after a closely fought election.
The election result also shows us that the Sweden Democrats, with a big margin, is Sweden's second biggest party, and I know that many Swedes are worried. Many have already met hatred and threats, and even more are worried about becoming a target and hesitate to express themselves in public. I see your concern and I share it.
With 176 seats, 73 of them going to the far-right Sweden Democrats, the four-party coalition will have a slim majority over the left, which won 173. Sunday's election was so close that it took until Wednesday for enough votes to be counted to validate the results.
No?
Pakistan is scrambling to deliver aid and save lives as the death toll from record-breaking floods keeps rising. Health officials say scores of cases of dengue have also been reported from flood-affected areas.
It's a double whammy for Pakistan. After being hit by floods, the country is now reporting an outbreak of waterborne diseases. Over 90,000 diarrhea cases were reported from one of the worst flood-hit provinces, Sindh, on the 1st of September. According to the head of government-run Kharkiv hospital, many of the children being admitted are in critical condition.
We are receiving sick children in a critical condition, suffering from dehydration and high-grade fever, because they are reaching here via broken roads and flood waters in the area. There is a lack of transportation. After all this, once these children arrive here, they are already in critical conditions. We are also receiving dead children here.
There are fears of mosquito-borne dengue fever due to the stagnant floodwaters. The monsoon rains have swept away entire villages, bridges and roads, leaving hundreds of thousands homeless. Nearly 1,500 people have died so far due to the floods. At one point, a third of the country's territory was inundated. With winter just weeks away, 500,000 people are living in camps after being displaced by the flood, which destroyed 1.7 million homes. So far, the government's priority has been to deliver food, tents and cash to the victims. Now they are planning measures to reduce the risk of waterborne diseases like dengue fever.
Yes, there are issues like gastro, diarrhea and dengue. We have already started using anti-dengue spray across the province, and we are taking serious action against those who are not doing their duty. We transferred 2 crore rupees to each district for the equipments to be used on anti-dengue spray.
The UN Children's Agency said over 3 million children are in need of humanitarian assistance and stand at heightened risk of diseases, drowning and malnutrition due to the most severe flooding in the nation's recent history.
The government is only giving us cooked rice. My children are sick with fever and a cough. We are staying here in this makeshift shelter. We need food.
Initially, Pakistan estimated that the floods caused $10 billion in damages, but authorities are now saying the damages are far greater. The devastation has forced the United Nations to urge the international community to send more help. So far, UN agencies and various countries, including the United States, have sent about 90 plane loads of aid. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
The end of the COVID-19 pandemic is in sight. That is over 2 years on and with hundreds of millions of people already affected. And it's the latest verdict of the World Health Organization.
The world is now in the best position yet to finally end the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to the head of the World Health Organization on Wednesday.
We have never been in a better position to end the pandemic. We're not there yet, but the end is in sight.
His comments marked the agency's most upbeat view yet since it first declared an international emergency more than 2.5 years ago. Last week's COVID deaths were the lowest since March of 2020. The virus has killed nearly 6.5 million people and infected more than 600 million after emerging in China in late 2019. It's roiled economies and overwhelmed healthcare systems. Vaccines and therapies have helped stem deaths and hospitalizations, and the Omicron variant and its subvariants have caused less serious disease. Still, WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus urged vigilance, saying countries need to strengthen policies, vaccinate high-risk groups, and keep testing, comparing the effort to running a marathon.
We can see the finish line. We are in a winning position, but now is the worst time to stop running. Now is the time to run harder and make sure we cross the line and reap the rewards of all our hard work.
With 1 million COVID deaths this year alone, the pandemic remains a global emergency. The WHO will convene experts in October to decide if the pandemic should remain at its highest level of alert.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine caused many Ukrainians to flee the country. A ballet group comprising of 60 Ukrainian refugees is preparing for a new production in London. I will leave you with that story. Do stay tuned to WION.
Giselle is a dramatic story about love and death and forgiveness, and it is relevant. It's a beautiful story to show the strengths of these dancers. Each of these dancers have their own quite dramatic stories. How they left home. Many of them have relatives who fight in the military. They constantly checking the news, as we all are. The company was formed to give these dancers who had to flee the war, to leave their homes and to leave their jobs, to give them a job, to give them something to do, and to rehearse, to dance, to receive money, and to tell the world that Ukraine is strong, the Ukrainian culture lives on, and to promote Ukrainian ballet around the world.
Many other